Hey there, Smite fans. Welcome into another edition of the SPL Waiting Room. This time, it's Phase 2 Playoff Edition, baby. Best time of year for Smite. The games have never mattered more here in Season 7. Today is going to matter a ton for a bunch of different teams. Remember, whoever wins this weekend is going to get the #1 overall seed. So we're going to talk a lot about what's going to happen here this weekend, what we could see at the World Championship, of course, and some big news on a personal level for a couple of players, a couple of pros saying that this could be their last SPL season. So stay tuned so we can talk about that. But first, we want to get you caught up on what you're going to see this weekend. So enjoy a very dashing young man telling you how the Phase 2 playoffs are going to work. Hey there, Smite fans. Aggro here. Can you believe it's November already? Not only does that mean that 2020 is almost over, bless up, but it also means that Phase 2 playoffs are right around the corner. 14 weeks of regular season play in Phase number 2. And Season 7's regular season is now behind us. It's time to look forward towards Phase 2 playoffs and the Smite World Championship. The top 6 teams will now be competing for their chance at the #1 seed at Worlds. And after working for months, it's fair to say that those teams have earned that shot. The teams will be seeded into a single elimination bracket based on their Phase 2 standings. In order, we will have Ghost Gaming, Space Station Gaming, Sanguine, Radiance, the Pittsburgh Knights, and the Renegades. Just like Phase 1 playoffs, the top 2 teams will earn a bye into the semifinals. And since Ghost is your #1 seed, they get to choose who they face in the semifinals of the teams that advance. It will be best of 5 matches all the way through the bracket. So buckle up for a good long weekend of high stakes Smite. And when I say high stakes, I mean it. Your winner at Phase 2 playoffs will be the #1 seed at the Smite World Championship. Being the #1 seed means that you sit on the throne, awaiting a team to meet you in the semifinals. So if the winner gets first seed, well, what about the rest? Remember those SPL points that teams earn during Phase 1 playoffs? Well, just like in Phase 1, teams will earn SPL points based on their placing. And since first place gets #1 seed automatically, that means second place will get 90 points, third, fourth place get 55 points each, and fifth, sixth get 20 points each. The team with the most SPL points total between Phase 1 and Phase 2 will be your #2 seed at Worlds, meaning they get the slightly smaller throne. Still in the semifinals, just on the other side of the bracket. And I know you might be wondering, what if the team with the most SPL points wins Phase 2 playoffs? Well, then the team with the second most SPL points becomes your #2 seed going to the Smite World Championship. And if earning a top seed at the Smite World Championship wasn't enough for some reason for you, how about this? Teams will also be competing for $100,000 that weekend at Phase 2 playoffs. So clearly a lot on the line. You're not going to want to miss it. November 13th through the 15th. Twitch.tv/SmiteGame as always. We'll see you then. And as he said, we'll see you then. Then is right now. We're getting started with the Phase 2 playoffs just after the show here. So you are tuned in to the right position. Time to bring in Goremizer and Dolson here today on the waiting room. And fellas, before we get in to what we're going to see this weekend, it's important to understand the stakes. We just went through the format video, but also some players have told me that this is going to be their potential last ride. We've been doing these player spotlights. If you haven't been checking them out, you can find them on the SMITEPro YouTube. And I got a chance to sit down with a couple of players recently that have told me that they think that this could be their last SPL season. Let's start with what iRaffer had to say. What do you still have left to prove, Raf? Do you feel like that you have something left to prove in the tank? What really drives you today?
I don't know. I'd say I'm a lot more preserved now. I don't really care as much. The drive is a lot of it has gone. Like it is probably going to be my last Worlds. It'd be a weird way to announce it, wouldn't it? But yeah, it is 99.9% my last Worlds because I have a girlfriend at home, and last year I spent 6 to 9 of the months of the year with her because she could travel to America because she's really nice like that. she wants to push me, and she says, because I wanted to quit. I didn't even want to do this year, but she said, well, you're never going to be able to do this again. You're going to go back to a job where you won't have the opportunity to travel and just chill with your colleagues in America, you know, the big colleagues. Yeah, it's kind of rough because I know she wants me to enjoy it, but at the end of the day, it gets rough because, like, with the whole Corona thing, the COVID.
Yeah.
I've not seen her once this year, so I've not seen her once in a whole year, and at that point, what's the point in going out with each other if you don't even get to experience the your youth together?
Yeah.
I'll be just working away, essentially away, and I'll get to chill with her at night, but and talk to her and play games, but it isn't the same. There's all
Sure.
stuff at home that I don't really want to get into, but there's a couple of those things that you're missing out on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more than likely going to be my last year, and it'd be kind of sad to go on a loss, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens, and to go as a 3-timer would be an absolute beast of a time. I would really be down for that, but I won't be going from the scene completely. I'll be streaming a lot. If I do end up quitting at the end of the year, I'll be full-time streamer and maybe a coach. Who knows? Maybe I can make someone else the enabler and coach them. I think I'd be a decent coach. I think I'm probably a better coach than a player at this point. I'm pretty washed.
Listen, you're just a player coach right now. You're micromanaging on the field while you're still with the players.
Exactly.
Right now.
I'm allowing them to carry me in my last days of Smite. Maybe though, we'll see. I don't know. If somehow we make it work next year, then I might play, but I am really doubtful about that.
Well, we're enjoying every game we get to watch, no matter how long it lasts here, Raph. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for taking the time, man. Again, if you want to watch that whole interview with Raffer, it was a very good one. You can find it on the SMITEPro YouTube, and we've got a lot of pros there. Gore, you hear Raffer say 99.9%. This is his last ride. What was your first reaction?
It's simultaneously a little surprising because, like, I mean, since season 2, like, Raffer's been playing for so long, it feels like you're losing a staple if he does leave. But at the same time, you know, we've had other greats that have done maybe even less. I mean, you know, they've won their own championships. They were stars in their own rights that have left on their own. You know, you look back, like MLC Stealth now works for Hi-Rez. You look at Lasses, keeps streaming, but he's not in the pro scene anymore. Like, there's been a lot of greats that have touched the game. So I think just being able to join the hall of all of those guys that are up there, especially as a 2-time, maybe a 3-time if he can make it work this year, that would just be prestigious for him.
Well, there's another teammate of Raffer's that I got to sit down and get a chance to talk to that also is looking to repeat for a 3rd time, but also this might be his last opportunity to do so. Take a look at what the King had to say. How many more chances do you envision giving yourself on that? You said your interest is waning. I'm not asking you to tell me, you know, what your overall game plan is, but have you considered how long you want to keep playing?
I mean, the plan is for this to be my last year in the SPL at least, and then maybe next year maybe I'll try and like do like SEC, but I kind of want to start progressing my other parts of life. I feel like I've committed a lot of time to Smite and I've loved every part of it. Like, it's been amazing, but at the same time I want to start progressing the other stages of life, and you know, maybe I can play Smite on the side, but my interest in the game I also feel like is kind of hindering me from playing to my best because I just don't enjoy the game as much anymore. And I feel like you kind of have to love it to really be doing your best, and I do at times love it, but then there's times where like it just doesn't feel that enjoyable to me, which, I mean, maybe I just need a break, you know, like maybe if I take some time off, it will revitalize me and maybe I'll come back, you know, wanting more. But
sure,
that's my plan for now. So hopefully this one last shot is going to be a good one.
Absolutely. What are some of the things you're looking forward to doing post-Smite, you know, those areas of life you want to advance?
Looking forward into studying and, you know, just educating myself a bit more, and I don't know, trying a bit out of real life more, because I've not really gotten to experience any of it, to be honest, since I went straight into Smite after school. But yeah, just like I don't know, I want to get my own apartment or like maybe a house or whatever, and like get a car and like kind of start getting ready to like settling down, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure everyone understands it's been an unbelievable career for you, and I can't wait to see what this year in the SPL brings and what the future holds for you, man. Thanks so much for the time, as always. So now, both Raffer and Kenneth saying that this could likely be their last SPL season. Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's similar vibes to how I felt when Raffer, or we just talked about Raffer. I mean, he's been playing since 2014. He won back-to-back world championships. The guy has kind of been there and done that. Not that he doesn't still have more to work towards, but I totally understand his perspective. These guys have more in life that they want to kind of branch out into and work towards, and that's nothing you can blame them for. I mean, this guy's got a great personality in the scene, so obviously if it does end up being his last year, we'll miss him. But I don't think you can look back with anything but respect and admiration for what he has accomplished, regardless of how the end of this year turns out for him.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, at some point, all good things come to an end, and that can include a Kenneth. What is, Dave? You think you could just bring Ramsey on the show and we're all okay with it? Is that how this works? By the way, that is how this works.
Oh, that is
very okay with it.
All right, down we go. I don't know what that was. Look, she's sad. She's reacting to Raffer and adapting a little. I know we're sad. We're sad about it.
Man,
but
so tough. So tough there. Ramsey coming in to mend all of our hearts all at once. Very kind of her to do that. All right, fellas, let's move forward a little bit and talk about what we can expect to see this weekend, because we can't let what's going to happen at the end of the year dominate the conversation. Biggest week of the year so far here in Season 7, and I want to talk about some specific gods that we feel like could make a big difference here this week. And I want to start with Hebo, because Hebo is one of these gods that we've seen a lot of different players take into a lot of different roles. Gore, how big of a god pick do you think Hebo will be this weekend?
I actually think he's going to be pretty prominent. Like, looking at it, he's got a really good win rate, but honestly, the thing that makes me lean more towards him is looking at the teams that are left, specifically Ghost Gaming and the Knights are two teams that love picking this up. Shinto, I'm so happy that highlight comes on there, because it's something that we've seen from pretty much everyone that's going to be playing today. Ghost to the point where they first pick it, same thing for the Knights, where they'll first pick it, and for some of these other teams, it's still just a solid pocket pick. Because it's so flexible between jungle and mid, it just fits into everything.
It's really, really key for a lot of these mid laners as well. So I think that's going to be a real big key. And even though this next god that we want to talk about doesn't have as much flexibility, Dave, feels like Ram still has that high level of prioritization to be one of these standout gods this weekend.
Yeah, I think, doubly sort of what Gore was saying with Hebo. I mean, you look at Ram, and then you have to look at the teams that are playing. I mean, Cyclone Spin comes to mind for Radiance today. I mean, that massive god pick for him there out of the duo lane. I think all weekend long contested is the right word for this pick. I mean, it's often first pick in some of these drafts where other gods are getting banned out. Rarely other hunters are getting banned out in those first three. And we see Ram fall into that first pick spot more times than not. It's good. We're getting a glimpse at Zapman here as well. I honestly think Ram might be the epitome of a contested god here this weekend because of everything that he provides and the priority that almost every single team this weekend has put on him throughout the phase so far. So I think it's going to be an important pick, and one that I imagine we start to see in those first one or three picks on either side.
I think that you're right to expect that. And another god that might fit that same category is Set. Gore, I guess I'm talking to you about these flexible picks that we've seen, because we talked Hebo and now we're talking Set. Even more flexibility for him than even someone like Hebo, because we've seen Set in solo, in mid, in jungle, and in ADC.
Yeah, depending on which team locks him in, that dictates where you're going. Like, Ghost lock it in? Okay, that's probably fine okay playing it. Radiance, that means it's going to be Cyclone Spin. If it's the Knights, it's probably going to Paul. Like, the fact that he's going into all these different roles, I think indicates how versatile this pick is going to be. And Renegades, the Lasbra, being able to play it here, so you get at least 4 different roles. Maybe somebody will swing him over into the support role just for the hell of it to see if he can work over there. Although playoffs may not be the time to be testing that one out. But I was looking at it, like, he really skyrocketed toward the end of Phase 2, just kind of jumped into almost every single game. If he wasn't available, he was getting banned because of it. Has like a 63% win rate at the end of Phase 2 from what he was able to do. Very accomplished and incredible at shredding down certain matchups. We saw a lot of countering to Cthulhu used by that for fine okay. I think when it comes down to it in mid, it's just because his burst damage, once he hits that level 6 mark, is just so massive. And his ability to survive through a team fight and continue that pressure with the damage that he outputs just gets to the point where all these highlight reels, I mean, we're seeing double, triple kills constantly because that's just what he brings.
That unbelievable cleanup potential on this god. Really, really versatile as well. And I'm excited to see who's going to pull him out and what he's going to do with him. Now, Dave, the other god that everyone's talking about, we've seen the track record for Hebo and for Set and for Ram. Loki does not have that same track record, has not been competitively allowed as of late. How do you think he's going to do? Will we see him at all this weekend?
That is the one question, Aggro, I don't think I have an answer to. I have no idea if we're going to see this god. I definitely think it is on the table. A lot of chatter around how Loki has been kind of tearing up the ranked scene. He's been in a lot of high-level ranked games and different roles, admittedly. I think we've seen him out of solo a little bit in some of those ranked games. Obviously in the jungle. I saw Mifflin playing him in the jungle the other day. I mean, you'd assume as an assassin. Well, it's Mifflin, so I'll let you take your guess on that one. This one's Pecky's, so obviously Pecky's is going to be winning here. Look, he does assassin things, right? I mean, he bursts you down and he'll provide big damage numbers in those fights, as any assassin would. I would not be surprised if we do see Loki at some point this weekend, but it's going to be one of those surprise picks, I think. I mean, there are so many stable gods right now out of the jungle that are a bit more tried and true, in my opinion. So Loki would be a bit of a fringe pick, a flex pick in my mind, but if these teams in scrims, you know, it's a lot of data we don't really have the back door on in knowing how some of these scrims have gone. If he translates well over from ranked into scrims, don't be surprised if we start to see more Loki.
Got to give a shout out there to Big Play Ray. That body block with the 2 there.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, clean. And you know, it doesn't matter what year it is. Pecky's Loki mechs are going to be on point. That's one thing that you can count on, whether or not we're going to see him at playoffs this week. Let's take a quick break as we get ready to break down what we think is going to happen this weekend at Phase 2 playoffs.
I want to know, out of all of those games, do you have one that maybe stands out to you the most, that was, you know, just one that's so great as a memory that it just means a lot to you?
I think it would have to be I think it would be one of two things. It would be either when we beat Astral as Myth, and we came in as like one of the worst teams, like we barely snuck in. Oh wait, I changed my mind. It wasn't even our game. It was the was it Kaz versus Soar from that one LAN in Season 3 where Mr. Turtle on Kuzenbo or whatever, it was like a 70-minute game. They like had the 3 Phoenixes down for 20 minutes or something, and Kaz came back and won it to like send us as in Myth to Worlds. And if they lost that game, we wouldn't have gone. And that actually led to us winning our first world, or my first Worlds. So I think 100% it's got to be that game. Even though I didn't play in it, but that is just like the biggest memory. Like once they won, I was on the caster table or whatever. And once they won, I literally just like tore off the desk and just like ran and like hugged all the guys because I was so sick that they won for us.
That's not the last you'll see of Bobby, chat. You're going to see him in roughly 6 minutes from now, give or take a little bit. He'll be joining us on the desk. That's not that many minutes. So if you have any preparations to do in order to see Bobby first,
this many.
Take care of them now. Get those out of the way. Also, we'll have Snoopy joining us on the analyst desk this weekend in case that you guys were wondering who else would be joining us. But first, we got to look at what's going to be happening. Let's take a look at those standings for what the seeding is going to be. Remember, it's only top 6 teams
here this weekend. So Renegades was your last one in. They will be playing up against Sanguine in the later set. And then Radiance and PK will be our first set of the Phase 2 playoffs. Really, really important for both of these teams to look scary because Ghost Gaming gets to choose who they play against starting tomorrow. So it's not that they have to play against Knights Radiance or Sanguine Renegades. They get their choice, which should add an extra layer of a bit of intrigue to this weekend. But I want to start with the later set, guys, so we can transition into talking about the prior set right before it goes live. Sanguine Renegades, a set that everyone probably feels like Sanguine should be pretty favored in here, Gore.
Yeah, and this is one where it just comes down to it. The fact that their matchup has gone consistently in favor of Sanguine, the fact that things, I think, all year have looked better for them, and just realistically what we expect out of the Renegades. I mean, sometimes they come through and just knock the other team out of the park like it's nothing. And then sometimes they come in and they look like they haven't touched Smite in a week. And it's just so, I want to say, like, just bipolar as to which Renegades team you're going to get. You never know going into it. And so you almost have to bet on Sanguine if you're just going to play it safe. But you have to factor in the fact that, like, if Lasber shows up, if Jake show up today, they could just be the reason that Sanguine get knocked out, in the first round if they play well. It's going to take some effort because a best of 5 is not the easiest one to keep that performance up the whole time. But I think tilt factor could come into that. Like, Renegades definitely have a chance, but I'd say it's probably like 80-20.
And remember, you've got to get a good performance here if you're Sanguine in order to maybe scare Ghost away from you if that's the matchup that you want to be able to avoid. Now, PK Radiance, Dave, this set is one that I think that both teams really need good starts in. Both these teams have been so streaky this year.
Yeah, I think so. And really their series record against one another is pretty indicative of that as well. I mean, they have taken sets off one another pretty much all year long, even if you're looking back to Phase 1. It is a weird matchup, actually, in the best way possible when you word it like that, Aggro, because we've seen a Radiance team, you think back to Phase 1 playoffs, that looked near unbeatable, took Ghost right to the brink there in the finals of the Phase 1 playoffs, and now you've got PK who won, like 6 games in a row before taking their little break. This is, in all reality, I think, a toss-up in my mind. I think Ramsey ended up picking Radiance this morning in her little pick'em. I might lean Radiance as well. I think a lot of this matchup gets decided out of the jungle. I think between Cuvo and Adapting, whoever shows up more consistently in a best-of-5 set, I mean, that's the peak of consistency unless you're looking at like a best-of-7 later on. You got to do it 5 games in a row if you're going all 5, which I think these two teams could. I think Radiance have the edge, but it's going to be a close one.
Man, it's been 5 years of Cuvo versus Adapting in the jungle being key parts of a matchup, and I love every minute of it. It still is so much fun to see. Let's take a look. We don't have time to go game by game and prediction by prediction, but we asked all the casters who they thought would win Phase 2 playoffs and ultimately clinch the #1 overall seed, and 5 out of 6 of us picked Ghost Gaming. Mifflin, the only one, since Obey was out, couldn't pick them, still had to go with something different, and he picked SSG. Guys, I feel pretty confident saying that I think Ghost is going to win. Do you feel the same way, Dave? You feel pretty good about this prediction?
Yeah, look, I think it's the safe bet. Ultimately, between all of the teams that are playing this weekend, you could probably make an argument for anyone, but if you just blanket have to put your money on someone, it's the team that on a consistent basis has beaten the other front runner, and that's SSG. SSG has not had Ghost's number at all. So I think if Ghost wins the semifinal, they end up facing SSG in the finals. History repeats itself. I think they're the safe bet. I'm not saying it's a shoe-in. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. But if you have to predict and you have to put your money somewhere, I think it's Ghost.
I think that makes some sense. Gore, is that how you concluded that Ghost would be your pick as well?
Honestly, I was a little more solid about it until I started looking back at Phase 1 playoffs when I realized Sanguine, first seed, picked their poison. They had a choice. They picked Radiance, end up losing that set. So I think Ghost, like Dave said, are the most consistent. They're the ones that you could rely on the most. But I think it's a lot shakier than a guaranteed bet. So it's something that you're going into it thinking that as long as they can perform, things will be fine. But you never know.
And that's what makes the playoffs so fun. Can't wait to get it started. Gore, Dave, thanks so much for joining us on the waiting room, and thank you for watching. Let's get to it. Phase 2 playoffs starting right now.